I think it might get hot.
All right, good morning, everyone. It's 8:30. We'll get started with our Monday morning Board of Supervisors meeting. I'm Darren Hamilton, Chair of the County Supervisors. We'll start off with acknowledge the minutes from the previous meeting.
Summary.
We have three.
We have October 10th,
The
we
10th.
have October 18th, and we have the 19th.
Second.
So I have a motion from Drish, a second from Sandquist to approve the minutes from the October 10th meeting, the October 18th meeting, and the October 19th meeting. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. All those opposed, same sign, motion carries. All right, let's move on to meet with our county engineer, Dwayne Hines. Good morning.
Good morning, supervisors. Hope everybody had a wonderful last couple of weeks since we haven't met here recently. I have brought the budget numbers from October just for you guys to review. We're about halfway through our construction money. Our bridge and culverts were upside down on the culverts, but we're under on the bridges because the way we report that when we replace a bridge with the tank cars, that goes against the culverts. So at some point we'll do a budget amendment towards the end of the year to bring that all into line. But as a category, we're well within where we need to be. Looking down on budget account 714, road cleaning and brush. We are getting ready to start our brush clearing and cutting on the right of way. And as you remember, last year we had quite a few complaints. So this year we've put together a flyer and we're going to get door hangers and go around, and all the houses that will be affected, we will be notifying them. So if they choose to have professionals do it, because we are not professionals, and we will do what's efficient and quick for us. And if they want it to be pretty, they'll want to hire somebody to do that. But we want to give them plenty of notice so they have the opportunity to do that. Other than that, we are done with our tank car replacements for the year. With the contract rock running longer than we anticipated, we've got of double tank cars that we won't be getting done this construction season.
Is that where Woodbrush Park?
So, yeah, it's over by you.
Yeah.
We did that on purpose. Just to mess with you. You know we didn't do that. So.
I know.
Our bridge on Cedar Avenue went out for bids last week. It appears that Iowa Bridge and Culvert was a successful bidder. And it also appears that there were a couple $100,000 under budget, which is good. But I have not got the official numbers from the IDOT yet to verify that. Obviously, as soon as I get the bid tabs and have a chance to review them, we'll.
Did you have any bids on that?
Just two. Iowa Bridge and Culvert and outfit out of the Des Moines area. Wasn't United Contractors, but I can't pull it off the top of my head. I'm sorry. But Iowa Bridge was 600,000 and change. The next bidder was in the $800,000 range. So we've done had Iowa Bridge on a number of our projects, and they are what passes for a local contractor since they're in Washington, Iowa. Other than that, the Southern Iowa Development and Conservation Authority that Darren is on their board has funds available, and the Soil Conservation Service approached us earlier this year about a project that they had done, I want to say 35 years ago, that needed some maintenance. So it's a pond project with an outfall structure and then a fairly long pipe under the road to provide the spillway for it that is starting to deteriorate. So we went through and worked a budget estimate up for it and have applied to Sitka for a $13,800 grant to pick up half the cost of that. Then the other half would be on the county. That should be approved because I think they have enough for every entity in the organization to get about 25,000. So we've got that. Hopefully we'll be coming up and I doubt we'll get that done this year. That'll be spring work. Other than that, we've just been rocking roads, replacing culverts and mowing.
Are you gonna enlighten us on potholes?
Oh, the residents along that access US 34 running through the county have expressed concern about the condition of the intersections with the gravel roads and the 4-lane highway. We're always somewhat hesitant to work within the DOT right of way just for safety concerns. Last week I met with Bob Uni, the district engineer for the IDOT, and we discussed the options we have and where their responsibility ends and where ours begin. And I think we've come to an agreement on how we can work together to have our guys safely work in that area. And we hope to get that scheduled here in the next couple of weeks.
Thank you.
Yeah, the big thing is just having a lane closed along Highway 34 where we're working, so we don't have equipment and personnel working right next to live traffic. And I think that's everything I had.
Okay, any other questions concerning this stuff for Dwayne? No? Okay, we'll move on to discuss and consider step wage increases for 3 secondary road department employees. Looks like we have Brandon Coleman, Quinn Daniel, and Alan Forsythe. So talk to us a little bit, Dwayne, about it. And these are usual step increases.
This is just their usual step increases. Quinn's completed his first year working for the county. He's done a really good job over in Glasgow Greater District. Brandon, I think, is going up to step E. He's been here 2 or 3 years. And then Alan, this is his last step. He runs the Greater District up out of Packwood. And then he's also a grade inspector when we need a hand with concrete pours. And Brandon's just kind of a good jack of all trades operator, and he works with the pipe crew and the concrete patching. And
Do you have the money for this?
yes.
Motion to approve.
So moved.
Okay, I have a motion from Sandquist, a second from Drish. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. All those opposed, same sign. Motion carries. Okay, so we're going to meet with Jamie Kiesling and Sarah Collins from CETA about the LORE program. Are they here?
They're not quite here yet. So
Okay.
Could we push it
Sure.
down on the agenda?
We'll move forward then, and we'll meet with Rochelle Ellingson. Is she here yet, Bart?
She's right
Okay.
here, and here's Sarah. here
Jamie will be
right
here
now.
momentarily. We got held up at the office. I apologize.
Okay, well, we were ready to have you guys go
You
right
want them
now.
to come up
so-
now?
Yeah, they're the next 2 items on the agenda here. And Rochelle
Jamie's coming too.
Yep, she should be here.
Carrier Ellison is justice involved, service coordinator for the SEAL region.
Yeah, sit down. This is Sarah Rochelle. Sarah's with the CETA program, the LORE program. And Rochelle's with our mental health region SEAL. So they've been working closely with us within the jail itself. recommendations outside the jail. And I'll let them explain kind of what they've done. They've taken us to, the next level. We don't talk about the problems anymore. We're taking action. I can't say enough good things about. There's a third lady here too that's going to show up, Jamie. So they're doing great things for the community, for the citizens of Jefferson County. So I'll let you two take over. Tell them what you're doing.
Wait for Jeannie.
Sure. I'm Rochelle Carrier Ellison. I work for Transition Link. Main office is located out of Mount Pleasant. Sarah Barrett is my director, supervisor. And I'm a justice involved service coordinator who works with detainees who have substance abuse and mental health needs. I coordinate placement for treatment for those individuals and get some rehabilitation. And working along with Sarah and Jamie as well. We have been pretty efficient working together, I think. And I think that the more we do it, the more effective the mental health services will be. We are lacking in services in the area, actually.
Can you be more specific about that?
Bed availability, number one.
So what kind of beds do we need? Are we talking transition housing or what are we talking?
That and placement for crisis, placement for substance abuse treatment.
So the region, and you're part of the mental health region, so Michelle's position is funded by CO. And you've been at our county since
July.
Yes,
I'm fairly new yet.
yeah. So welcome.
Thank you.
And I know one of the things that Bart and I've talked about through the years is is there anything we can do to help people when they leave the jail to not go back to their previous environment if they want to try to prevent that,
Do
from.
we have a sober living home here in Jefferson County?
Do we?
Yes.
No.
We need that.
Okay, so explain to us exactly what that is.
Sober living, and you guys chime in because I'm new at this. So what, from my understanding, is sober living is after treatment is completed successfully. A person would then transition over into the sober living home where they would have supports for both mental health and substance abuse, ongoing treatment, which includes counseling, peer support specialists. These two ladies, they're very, very good at what they do.
And how many people approximately, if we had a home, are we talking 5 people? Are we talking 20 people?
Even 5 would be better than 0.
Nothing.
Exactly.
Okay, and you mentioned something about the crisis need for that. Now, we do have in the SEAL region 2 crisis houses. Is it that kind of crisis or are we talking about a different need?
Different needs.
Okay.
And it could be something that would pertain to that. That community is, sometimes I lose my words and I apologize. That community is a little bit of a different spectrum than what I'm looking for.
So you're looking more on substance abuse
Yes.
than mental health?
Yes.
Okay, that's a helpful
We're gearing
clarification.
towards people who have been placed and are transitioning out of that placement and have no place to go. And would transition from a inpatient setting or a mental health hospital setting and into a home where they would be able to transition back into the community successfully.
Thank you.
Can I ask you, where's the nearest silver living place?
We have 2 Oxford houses in Atumwa.
And they're completely full all the time.
So what does staffing look like for those homes?
Lisa Four owns the homes. And There's one manager inside the Oxford houses, and he lives there. Both of them are for men, unfortunately. But the one person who lives there runs it, and they all pay rent. They all do continuing care with treatment. They all go to the NA meetings there. There's a church right there on the corner, right there next to that sober living house. So they all go there.
Do you know how many they house, Jamie?
The one on the corner I know houses 6.
So very minimal at best, but again, better than nothing.
Right.
But for the females,
So where's the nearest one for females?
Cedar Rapids.
Cedar Rapids.
Iowa City
Or
also,
Okay.
for this area, yeah. And they're always full. And so even if we had a housing of minimum of 5, that would be a huge impact to the community.
So do you know, years ago, I tried to work on some kind of transitional housing and then COVID hit. So I know from what I researched in the past, there might be some funding available if they have mental health needs. Do you know if there's any funding available from any other sources, or is it mostly fundraising?
most of them, well, I don't know. I can't answer that.
Okay.
The SAMHSA website, I've researched it quite a bit. I've gone through it with a fine tooth comb looking. And there are entities that do funding
Okay.
for substance abuse, more mental health, but progressively thinking, I would think that substance abuse would be considered and should be considered to be in the mental health
Oh, yeah.
bracket.
They go hand in hand for sure.
Mhm. And so when I do my intakes and when I do my my enrollments with people and I have to put it in our system, even on the paperwork that I do, does not include a substance abuse disorder, which is now considered a mental health issue. And so I put that under other, and I'm talking to my director about adding that specific category just because it's important. And then the other thing that I really want to talk about is serious crisis in the jails. Sheriff Richmond and his staff have been dealing with some severe cases, and they don't know what to do with them. We don't have any place to send them.
So what types of diagnoses are we looking at, or behaviors?
Severe. And so the protocol is not exactly in place. There is no unified communication. Like there's not a specific protocol, and there needs to be a specific protocol to prevent tragedy. I know we can't prevent all of them, but
Who develops that protocol, or is that something that's done through the SEAL region that's now run by the state?
that's probably going to be a state thing, which
Okay.
Jefferson County needs to be involved in to come up with a plan. And so then the jail has resources to call. So then I would assume contracts with places for them to call, for them to have people a place to go.
Are
in the
you
event.
aware of any other programs that are similar to what you're talking about in Iowa?
St. Luke's is the only place that I know of right now that would take severe cases where a person would be doing some severe self-harm. And in those kind of cases, there's really no communication between solid communication. Now there is communication, but it's not solid.
What do you mean by that? You can call
Nobody
and
knows
talk
what
to
to do.
somebody, but solid is what? Everybody has to know what they're gonna do,
Yes,
where they're gonna go, facilities in place,
yes, sir.
that kind of thing.
Yes, sir.
So we're just kind of left out there hanging right now.
Pretty much.
Okay.
And there's a lot of people suffering, and the new 988 crisis phone call is in the larger areas, Quad Cities, it's effective there. Rural around here, not so effective. They get directed to a whole list of, it's a rabbit hole. And when somebody's in crisis, they're not gonna want to sit down and take the time and say, oh, okay, I'm gonna call here and here and here, or email this person. It needs to be, that person is directed right to where they need to go.
A local source.
Yeah.
So how does the county get involved in this in order to make the state do something like that?
Well,
Because that's what I'm trying to get out of this. We're being told about a problem that we have that's with the SEAL region, which we have no control over anymore. We didn't have any control over it previously. We just contributed so much per capita for the county here to it. And these kind of things have been happening for many years now. What is going to change to make this become a reality? How can we change it to become a reality?
well,
Where do we start? Who do we look at? Because I don't think we've got the money as a board to be able to go and house and put somebody up and start a lot of these programs that we've heard talked about here. Initially, and I like knowing that we don't have anything for this and we're trying to figure something out, but what would be the first steps?
planning,
Okay.
getting a committee together. And crisis intervention training would be a good one. I know we do have 2 CIT trained officers in Jefferson County, correct? And is that sheriff or police?
That's sheriff.
Okay, do we have,
There's a few on the police side.
okay. So, refreshing their training to begin with would be a good start. And then having a mobile crisis unit.
Yeah, and that's one of the things in SEAL needs to provide.
Yep.
As part of the state criteria. However, in our region, we haven't had any applicants for it because we don't have enough providers. And they've put out bids and don't get any applicants. So that is a gap. And we see that in rural Iowa.
I've researched the program, a CIT program in New York that's been in place since 1984. Now, I know we're not New York, but this is a program that's very effective. It's called Be Heard. It's a team of 2 who you would either take a call or go out in the field to the actual person who are professionals in the field of, mental health to either de-escalate, to prevent, and this is more to do with jail diversion and then mental health support combined. And that's that they do that on volunteer basis. There's no money for that. This is volunteer work that they're doing. Fire departments, EMTs, social workers, counselors, they're all working together. I think we have enough of those in this community to do something like that.
Thank you.
Sarah, Jamie, you want to talk about? I had a few stats from year 2021. I don't know if you know these, out of all intakes, as far as reported mental health issues at intake, it was 52% of all inmates that came through the jail.
In Jefferson County.
In Jefferson County, from depression, anxiety, previous suicide attempts, multiple diagnoses, anxiety, self-harm, depression. So 52%. And on the other side of things, which the reason we have both mental health and drug addiction, it could be co-occurring. So out of drug and alcohol related intakes, it was 56%.
That's very high.
Of intakes for 2021. 56%
That's higher
came
than
in and were drunk, high, flagged as known to abuse drugs. So, which that's what we're trying to do here, with the people that keep coming back to the jail. We had a issue. We had a stat from 2021 that over 2,200 inmate days were probation violators. So they didn't necessarily commit another crime, but they're coming back on a probation violation. So obviously there's a need there. Why are they coming back? Are they still abusing drugs and they test positive for a drug? So why not hit them when they're coming through? And these ladies have been helping to get these people, I guess, as a contributing citizen of Jefferson County. So you two want to talk about your program, Laura, and what you've been doing and go from there.
So we have the LORE program, and that's part of CEDA out of Atumwa, and LORE is linkages to care, outreach, referrals, and engagement. It's a peer-led program, peer-led meaning that Sarah and I have lived experience with active addiction as well as successful recovery. So we go in and we use our lived experience and kind of relate to people to build that rapport and help them navigate the pathway that's going to work for them. Originally, we were geared towards the opioid crisis, and we are still, because opioids are in everything now, including marijuana. There's fentanyl in marijuana. So anyone who's using any street drugs is at a risk of an overdose. So we were originally supposed to be working with people like hospitals, EMS, and we did go meet with those people, but we quickly realized that in the state of a crisis, no one's going to think we should call Jamie and Sarah to come here. And then people who get brought in, they just get transferred out or released. They don't ever keep those people. So we would lose track of them. So we thought we would go into the jails where people were kind of sitting in that mindset of, oh, maybe I do want to change. Maybe I don't want to do this anymore. And kind of working with them for weeks sometimes. And getting them into a different months. There's a couple people that's months, a different mindset to change and want to transition out of jail into an inpatient treatment setting. And we work with Van Buren County, Keokuk County, Wapello County, Jefferson County, and Appanoose County. And we just navigated into Davis County as well. This jail has been the best jail to work with.
They set the standard. They were the first jail that allowed us to come in and work with these people. And, you know, it is really the best time to get these people. It really is, because they are, and we know everybody wants to get sober when they're in jail, but that's not what we're offering. We're offering a chance to work with them on a week-to-week basis to get them in the mindset, sharing our lived experiences on what it has been successful for us. Together, we have 25 years in active addiction and 12 years in a successful recovery. Today, I celebrate 6 years. There's that. And our form of coaching is a little bit different. Jamie, she kind of leads with her heart, and she's like, oh, let me, she's kind of oh, I'm so sorry. And I'm just like, really? How's that working for you? So we kind of play the good cop, bad cop type thing all the time, but we've had a lot of success. We have screened 19 people in this county. We accepted 12. And of those 12, 7 of them are currently in treatment, engaged, and doing great.
Good. So tell me, how is what you do after they get out of jail too, or is it just when they're? Tell us how this works.
Yep, we stay with them for 6 months.
Okay.
Once they're accepted, we stay with them for 6 months. Our end goal is always going to be treatment, but sometimes in the beginning, we can't offer them that treatment. They're not ready for that treatment. So we just work with them on a week-to-week basis. And then we get those evals set up while they're in jail. We get them ready to be transitioned into an inpatient setting most times. There has been times that people have been released. Our very first 2 success stories from this area, they both were actually released from jail, and one of their insurance had gotten messed up, and she couldn't get into inpatient. And obviously, if she stayed on the streets, there was a very, very high chance that she would use, but if she uses, guess what? She goes back to jail. She stayed on the streets for 4 weeks until her insurance became available. And then she actually was turned away from inpatient because she had too much sober time. She then was screened for drug court, has been accepted to drug court, and is doing phenomenal. And these are the first 2 people that we accepted from this county, I believe. The other one was, he had a serious fentanyl addiction. And we very quickly knew that if something didn't happen with him, he was going to die. Like there just isn't, when you have an addiction that's bad, that is the end outcome of that addiction. Everybody will have a sober date. Some people's will be on their tombstones. That's just the reality. So we worked with him. He ended up getting out, and again, was kind of the same thing. His insurance was kind of in limbo there for a second. He remained on the streets for 3 weeks, sober, and then he was actually able to go to that inpatient, and he is out working a program that's designed for him, and he's doing phenomenal as well.
So you mentioned the insurance, and I know that's an issue because once, let's say they have Medicaid or some insurance and they go to jail, then what happens?
The insurance becomes, at that time, it changes from being active to incarcerated. I don't know that it necessarily is canceled at that point, but we can go in and do a medically exempt, which will allow them to transition into an inpatient setting. However, sometimes we don't know that that insurance says incarcerated until we've already had that evaluation done. And then we find that out. So there is that little bit of gap of trying to get those things done.
So within the system, in an ideal world, what would need to happen? Because I know a lot of these are Medicaid, right?
Yeah.
So does there need to be a legislative change with that to somehow address that? Because I've heard that through the years is an issue. And Chris, you've got experience with that too. So
Yes.
chime in on Medicaid and jails.
Hi, it's my understanding that once they're incarcerated for 30 days, it's like you said, put on hold or it's dropped off. However, if somebody has just a medical emergency or a medical need, then the jail becomes responsible. They have to go through that process to get that Medicaid activated, which is another huge barrier here because then the county is left holding that responsibility. So yes, Mr. Shipley, we need to move forward with that and somehow not have Medicaid drop off while someone's incarcerated.
Which I don't think we activate that. We pay for stuff at that rate.
Right.
I think the stuff charged to the jail or the county, if they have a medical or whatever issue, it's charged at that rate, not necessarily that it's activated.
Right, but what I'm saying is for continuity of that patient as an individual and as a human, they need to have active insurance, whether they're incarcerated or outside on the street.
Yeah, absolutely.
And that's the short, that's a bottom line, but I've heard this for years, that a huge barrier, both from a county jail budget wise and more important for a patient outcome is they gotta have coverage.
Yes.
And when they lose their coverage and then they're discharged, they don't have coverage.
Well, and we do help them get signed up for Medicaid and get them back on and active when they are released. But again, there's still that limbo. Those people are waiting when they should have been transitioned into an inpatient setting where we're not allowed to send them. However, those two did remain sober. And I believe it is solely because they had a peer support.
Yeah.
They had us every day checking on them or every other day.
So do you have trouble finding inpatient settings to send them to?
Sometimes, yep, sometimes. And that's why it's such a blessing that we were able to team up with her in this area, because there's some inpatient places that just can't take them because their mental health is so bad. And that's when Rochelle has been very, very, very amazing to work with. We just kind of collaborate together and devise a plan that is best going to be successful for that person, individualized.
I just want you to know this is wonderful to hear, because I know this has been a huge issue and I know there's still work to be done in the system, but this is a big step forward. Thank you.
You guys set the bar high. You did. When we were allowed to come in this jail, we didn't really know what this was going to look like, but they really have. And every time we go to another jail, we expect that other jail to run like Jefferson County. Doesn't always work that way, but we really do appreciate you guys allowing us to come in there, and you really have set the bar high for what other jails should be doing for the community.
So how are the funding for your positions done through CETA?
Iowa Department of Public Health funds us through the state opioid response grant.
Okay, because I was just going to ask about that, because the county gets some funding, but you're already funded through that. Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
This was a pilot program that was implemented about 1.5 years ago. And then in January, we actually started taking on people. So Jamie has been on this pilot program since day one. She was hired as the first peer recovery coach, and I came on in January. And we we're happy. We're trying. We are a work in progress. We don't have everything figured out, but you know, we are having some successes, and that's because the community actually cares, you know, they do. They really do care.
Well, we know this has been a huge issue and we're just thankful you're here. And I know there's still things to do, but it's progress and that's good to hear.
I might add to the whole issue with the crisis in the county. I am now CIT trained as a coordinator for crisis intervention and would like to build a committee for that purpose. And from there, then solutions can be made to the questions of how. And so I get a little bit passionate about what I talk about, and because I know the need. And so sometimes I become just kind of focused on, okay, we need to talk to the important people to see what help we can get. And so that's why I'm here today. That's why, you know, Sheriff Richmond invited me. And then these two ladies are rock stars. I can tell you, they do a lot more than what they tell you guys they do. I think that they're plowing a path pretty much.
Since I've been sure trying.
And, you know, with the support of the community and the county, we can do a lot more.
I mean, what works for one person is not going to work for everybody.
Right.
And so that's really what we do. We just spent that raw time with them trying to figure out what it is that's going to work for them to be successful, what it is that they need in their treatment, what it is that's keeping them from doing treatment, what has happened in their lifetime that needs to be addressed, or, you know, sharing just our lived experience. Like, yeah, I understand that, but you know, something similar happened to me. And then sometimes that light bulb just goes on and you really see these people after working with them for weeks and weeks and weeks, and sometimes months. You really see that transition, that broken person that's trying to get up. And then they teeter-totter and they teeter-totter and they teeter-totter. And that's when we really just start pushing it so we can push them forward instead of them falling backwards and getting lost in the same cycle. Because that's what happens. People get arrested. They don't know what to do at that point. They want to be sober. They want to live a self-directed life. They just don't know how. And then they get out, and what happens? They return to the same environment, and it's a vicious cycle over and over and over and over.
That's what we recognize the same thing. They commit a crime, and whether or not it's mental health, drug addiction, or both, they get put on probation and they just keep coming back for years. And they keep getting arrested, and not necessarily they commit another crime, but it's a probation violation. And why not catch them, you know, and provide services to them? At least we're going to catch some of them, you know, and then they're not coming back, and maybe they're productive in the county. So,
Good work.
so I appreciate all three of you and what you've done.
Thank you for the update.
That's why I brought you here. I just want to recognize you and let the public know that you're doing wonderful work.
Well, thank you. We're glad to be a part of this community.
Do you guys have any cards?
I haven't been there long enough to have fancy
Yeah,
business
she was
cards,
ready.
but
No, that's fine.
You'll work
I
with
have
Dee
one. Yeah.
if there's
I might
anything
actually
further.
look up you.
Darren, I have a question for them. How long is your opioid funding? I can't remember how long the state is gonna fund that opioid.
We just got refunded again for another
2 years.
2 years.
Okay, that's what I thought, but I just wanted to clarify that.
Yeah, they didn't tell me that when I got hired. It was
Kind of an important thing to know.
yeah.
Okay. I couldn't remember. I thought it was 2 years, so thank you.
Yeah.
Well, it sounds like it's a program that's doing some good, so that's really exciting.
Yeah, that's wonderful.
Because we've been talking about the cycle for a long time, and it's really good to have.
Pamphlet, and it has my contact.
and it is,
information
and
on the
it's
back.
such a vicious cycle. It really is. What worked for me doesn't always work for
Okay.
everybody. My sober date is actually the date of my last arrest, but then I went on to prison. And I spent 11 months in prison, and that's what worked for me, but that doesn't always work for everybody. So Jamie was actually released from jail, right? Into the community,
Onto the streets.
onto the streets. Yeah.
I was actually from Jefferson County originally, ran amok here, and then I was released to the streets and decided I didn't want to do that anymore. So I trucked it to Atumwa, and that's where I live now. I have a house and a car and living the life. So I come here now.
Family.
Yeah, I got my family. Yeah.
So there's really not anything that people have done that we probably haven't done. And so, you know, it's easy to relate with people that are broken, and it's really a joy to watch them, you know, have even just the little wins. And every win needs to be appreciated and it needs to be celebrated.
Yeah, and I know, as we mentioned, you know, in years past, we talked about jail diversion program. What Rochelle's doing is that it's called Transition Link now. So again, it comes through SEAL, and thank you for being here.
Absolutely. I wish we had a Rochelle in every county that we were in. But we don't.
Well, they all should have access to one through their mental health region. So I would contact whoever's on your mental health regions in those counties.
There's 3 of us. Melissa Mace is in Des Moines, Louisa County, and then Jordan Utterback is in Van Buren and Lee County. So
who would cover Appaloosa?
There's a mental health region in like Wapello, Appaloosa, Davis, and what's the other, another, probably keep, no.
I can find you the
Nebraska.
connections.
Yeah, I have them, but
So I would contact maybe a county supervisor in those areas and find out who's on the
I'll get it
governance.
from Sarah. my
Yeah,
boss, and-
Sarah would have it.
Yep. And send it to you guys.
when we visited with those people in those regions, from my understanding, it is strictly kind of just they manage the mental health side of it, the medicine side of it. I don't know that there's any
Well,
chance for placement.
all mental health regions have the same state criteria that
Okay.
the state has determined.
Okay.
I can tell you though, in our area, having enough providers is a huge barrier to implementing those programs. Because what works in Polk County and Scott County does not work in Southeast Iowa.
Right.
So,
Okay.
all right, thank you.
Is it horribly out of order for me to say something nice to these folks? Could I do that?
Just a nice comment, that's
Yes.
fine.
My son was a peer support person, and so I have a very deep appreciation of what you guys have presented here. I would like to arrange for you guys to talk to a group that I chair. And I would like to ask you to please take the ladies to a birthday celebration for you. Happy birthday.
Thank you. Thank you. You're so
Really,
much.
really touched by what you guys
Oh,
have
thank
said.
you. Thank you. We appreciate that.
Yes.
Thank you.
Happy birthday.
Thank you.
Okay, well, Bart, anything else?
I think that's it. Is there any more you'd like to say?
No, I
I-
want to thank you guys from the bottom of our hearts for
Yes.
allowing us to be here. I'm sorry. that
We just
were-
appreciate you, Bart.
We do.
Well,
We really
I
do.
appreciate you.
We really
too.
do.
I mean, you're changing things, you know, through the county, through the jail, so.
And we'll get there. I mean, like I said, it's an uphill battle, but
You're getting there, you
we're
guys. You
stepping
guys
it
are
one
getting
step at
there.
a time.
Yeah.
Sometimes we fall down, we skin our knees, but she gives me a Band-Aid and tells me, come on, let's go.
It's super glue.
Thanks for having us.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you so much.
Okay,
Have a
thank you,
wonderful day.
ladies.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, we'll move on to discuss and consider resolution supporting Operation Green Light for veterans. We have Ray here with us.
Hi, Ray.
Good morning. Good morning. So explain to us a little bit about Green Light for veterans.
Operation Green Light is kind of centered around Veterans Day, which is coming up November 11th. It's a national effort. It has the backing of the National Association of Counties offices and the National Association of County Veteran Service Officers. Also has the support at state from ISAC and from our state association. It basically just to light the courthouse green, November 7th through the 13th, which I think we can do with just a few lights.
Are those going to be inside, outside, what?
I was thinking inside, a couple screw-in incandescents, and then maybe for this front foyer, maybe get a tube sleeve or something for the fluorescent that's up there.
Okay.
That'll just give it a green glow for those days. That's really about it.
Okay, well, we have this resolution in front of us that says, whereas the residents of Jefferson County have great respect, admiration, and the utmost gratitude for all the men and women who have selflessly served our country, this community, and the armed forces. And whereas the contributions and sacrifices of the men and women who served in the armed forces have been vital in maintaining the freedoms and way of life enjoyed by our citizens. And whereas Jefferson County seeks to honor these individuals who have paid the high price for freedom by placing themselves in harm's way for the good of all. And whereas veterans continue to serve our community in the American Legion, veterans of foreign wars, religious groups, civil service, and by functioning as county veteran services officers in 29 states to help fellow former service members access more than $52 billion in federal health and disability and compensation benefits each year. And whereas approximately 200,000 service members transition to civilian communities annually. And whereas an estimated 20% increase of service members will transition into civilian life in the near future. And whereas studies indicate that 44 to 72% of service members experience high levels of stress during transition from military to civilian life. And whereas active military service members transitioning from military service are at a high risk for suicide during their first year after military service. And whereas the National Association of Counties encourages all counties, parishes, and boroughs to recognize Operation Greenlight for veterans. And whereas Jefferson County appreciates the sacrifices of our United States military personnel and believes specific recognition should be granted, therefore be it resolved that with designation as a green light for Veterans County, Jefferson County hereby declares from October through Veterans Day, November 11th of 2022, a time to salute and honor the service and sacrifices of our men and women in uniform transitioning from active service. Therefore, be it further resolved that the observance of Operation Greenlight, Jefferson County encourages its citizens in patriotic tradition to recognize the importance of honoring all those who made immeasurable sacrifices to preserve freedom by displaying a green light in a window of their place of business or residence. So that's our resolution. Do I have a motion to approve the resolution?
So moved. Second.
Okay, I have a motion from Sandquist, a second from Drish. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. All those opposed, same sign. Motion carries. Ray, thank you very much for all that you do for all the people here in Jefferson County. Appreciate that. Okay,
Thanks.
we'll move on to discuss and consider liquor license for the Cider House LLC. So we have one in our packet, an application to be submitted to the local authority. Bart, you don't have a problem with Cider House getting their liquor license?
Not at
renewed?
all, not at all,
Okay.
no problem.
Okay, motion to approve.
Second.
I have a motion from Sandquist, a second from Drish to approve the liquor license for the Cider House LLC. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, same sign. Motion carries. All right, so we'll move on to discuss and consider procedures and standards for minimizing soil compaction on agricultural lands during utility construction on wet soils. I don't know who's here to address that.
I'll talk about this. So this came out from the ISACs, which is the Supervisors Board, because of the pipeline is a huge issue in many of the counties in Iowa, and the supervisors had wanted to maybe do something legal to oppose it based on the eminent domain issue. However, it's very expensive to do that. So that what this would do is they're asking each county, and this is voluntary, for $600 to contribute to a study. I'll just read the first part, basically on soil compaction and how pipeline construction, if not done under correct soil conditions, can really ruin the soil. Those are my words. There's a lot of probably better engineering terms. But what it is, ISAC and ISACs have been requested to contract for an analysis that will allow for development of procedures and standards to assist in the mitigation of soil compaction on ag lands caused by the utility construction occurring on wet soils. The principal investigator for this analysis will be Dr. Teskey, Associate Professor Ag and Biosystems Engineering at Iowa State University. The analysis will investigate the methods to determine field soil wetness and establish a relationship between field soil water precipitation from real-time data and degree of soil bearing capacity for minimizing heavy load induced rutting. Soil samples will be collected from the previous Dakota Access Pipeline impacted soils and for their locations with different drainage classes on sites where new construction activities will be carried out. Specific objectives are the field soil moisture and wetness at various soil consistency from the field sampled soils at the top and subsoil layers, soil cone permetrometer. Is that it? Thank you. Will be measured at the sampling sites, measure soil testing on mechanical and physical properties according to ASTM. There's an engineering standard. And mathematically estimate rainfall event that creates soil wetness and weak soil bearing capacity for excessive rutting. The findings from this research will be published in scientific journals and presented at organized extension meetings and professional conferences. So that's the gist of what this is. And so since it came from ISAC, I thought we should probably take a look at it.
And you said they're looking for a contribution of $600
That's right.
towards what, the
study.
$51,098 that they're talking about this study costing?
Yeah, and that's basically the salary of the person to do that from Iowa State.
So are you making a motion to approve $600 to contribute to this? And if you
I don't know.
are,
Well, I will if we can figure out where we can take it from.
well, yeah,
In the
that's what I
budget.
was just going to ask. What would be appropriate?
That's a
So if we have 99 counties in the state, what do we get? Everybody's got to at least contribute $516.14. They're asking for 600. What if they don't get that? What if they don't get the 600?
I don't know.
So, if you've got only the 700 or 70 counties that the pipeline goes through contributing, you're still looking at,
Sure.
you're short of money.
Mhm.
So I'm wondering, I feel we can't make a motion on this today until we get any more information about this.
Well, yeah,
Would you like to contact either probably Tim Neal or Bill Peterson and find some answers?
Sure.
his phone number is the last line before the signatures.
Mhm.
Phone and email.
515-240-1562, that number.
Yes. Okay, then we'll move on until we find out more information. All right, we'll move on to discuss use of space in the courthouse and other county-owned properties.
On our agenda this morning, we went and toured the building. I don't know. I just put this on here in case we had any questions or comments.
I don't know, I
If
thought we
not,
had a
we can
good
skip
visit
it.
out there.
Yeah, I thought
That
it
was
went
very
well.
good.
Okay,
I thought the tour went well.
I'll see what I can find out about the other space for mental health and I'll go from there.
Yeah, I think it comes back to that question.
I think it starts there.
Yeah, I think it has to, so then we know what direction anything's gonna go.
Mhm.
Thank you.
Okay. All right, make committee reports. Do we have any committee reports?
I have none.
I had ambulance board last week. And I think that was it.
Okay. Building committee. We have a problem over at the Maple Street building. The furnace that supplies Pathfinder is shot, cannot be repaired. It's 37 years old. The water that had seeped into the basement over the years has rotted everything out in the bottom of the furnace, and there are no parts available to repair the brand and type of furnace that's in there. So we're going to have to look at purchasing a new furnace. I have received one quote so far from Happy Land, but I'd like to be able to go out and get a couple more quotes just so that we know what we're looking at. And I won't tell you what the quote is because until I get other quotes, I don't want to tip everybody's hand.
So, with the weather getting colder.
We need to act on this in a
Yes,
hurry.
that's correct.
So
How many furnaces do we have in
I believe we have 3.
each section?
Yeah, there's actually 4 in the building, but one of them has been abandoned in place. And of course, this is probably the oldest one in that building. Being 37 years old, it was there even before the county bought the building and in the condition that it's in. So we need to move on something fairly quick. We've got a couple of warm days here that I'm glad for, that the one company that gave an estimate said they could start right away with replacement. This all generated from a call that I received from Blake Law over there in the office. And he had said it was cold a couple of days last week. We've also had some complaints of the courthouse being cold a couple of days last week as well. We had a couple of incidents with the boiler needing to be refired. That was accomplished by the gals in the auditor's office. They did a good job of remembering how I taught them how to do all of that good stuff so that it could be taken care of. And then we also have some problems with some mini splits that aren't Indians that are here in the building. One of which seems to be continually a problem, which is the one that supplies the clerk of court's office on the second floor. The air conditioner doesn't want to function most times, and the heating doesn't want to function most times. And they've been out and they've changed computer chips. They've looked at the unit out here. They've done a myriad of things to this unit, and nobody can seem to figure out why it's not working like it should. So we're going to have that investigated a little bit more, especially with the weather turning cold here with November starting in a week and a half.
So do you want names of a couple more people to get bids for furnaces for over at Pathfinders?
Yeah, I could take any names that you want to suggest. I know that we have.
I gotta get their numbers, but.
Yeah. If you get those to me, I would appreciate it. I'll give them a call.
Okay.
So that's kind of the status of what's going on with our buildings at this point in time. We also have to think about that same thing for the new building that was purchased with the furnace in it, that determine how it's going to be used and what size area it's going to need to heat and cool. So we'll need to do that fairly quickly as well. We'll move on then to public comments. Do you have any public comments? Jeff Shipley.
Well, thank you, esteemed members of the board and other honorable public servants and members of the public. A couple quick comments. I've got a note on obviously the mental health discussion, which was a great discussion. Glad I was able to attend in person. It's very, very important that we make as much progress as possible on the treatment end of things. I think certainly when it comes to revisiting Medicaid, we want an all options approach, and hopefully we can really make progress on the treatment side. Where I think we've really been neglecting and need a lot more attention is the prevention side. Because just from the statistical, substance abuse is still increasing. These mental behavioral disorders, not only are they increasing, they're now increasing at a greater rate than before. I think there's a lot of great testimony from the people who are working firsthand. And again, just a couple kind of brief comments. Don't want to get too deep in any things, but some of the ways that we're starting to think about this, when you look at addiction and substance abuse, the opposite of that is not necessarily sobriety. Some people say the opposite of addiction would be connection. That's why the peer-to-peer program works so well when you're being connected with another person who's lived through those experiences. That is very powerful. It could also mean connection to meaning or purpose in life. Typically, people will get involved in substance abuse when they have a catastrophic breakup or they lose their job, or sometimes, things happen in life that result in substance abuse, and then people get in a rut that they can't get themselves out of. So when they're connected to responsibility, family, things that they got to get out of bed for and provide for, even it's been interesting, even having a pet available that you're supposed to care for, which is amazing because people will take better care of their pets than they take care of themselves, which is, again, I guess the point of all this is that the human psyche, mental health is not well understood or not completely understood. There's certainly a lot of limitations on the treatment side. Workforce was mentioned, also efficacy. As they said, some things work, some things don't, and we don't quite understand why. But on prevention, this idea of connection, so we use the term genuine human connection, but also connection to life's meaning, life's purpose, or a word that really upsets everyone, God. So one of the reasons why Alcoholics Anonymous or Narcotics Anonymous is so successful, because step one really is humbling yourself before a higher power and using that as kind of a way to align yourself with reality, so to speak. So these problems are getting worse. As we've been talking with the community over the last few months or years, some people even trace to, I guess I'll just put it this way. Unless you have young people in our institutions that are discovering who they are and what they're doing on the planet, until you have that happening, instead of playing video games like is going on now, these problems are going to exacerbate and are going to persist. So I just wanted to share those couple of thoughts because we're really neglecting the prevention side. We're not really having a serious discussion on how people are forming these illnesses and all the things that go into it, because it is a lifetime story. And that's, things that happen when you're 5 or 6 years old could lead to an addiction when you're 18, 20, 25. So there's a very, very big picture. Obviously, there's a very acute need that needs a lot of immediate attention, support financially, to do all the services we need. So I just want to get that off on the table and hopefully just expand this dialogue as wide and as deep as possible so we can really address the root of what's going on in society. Because I think that's the biggest thing I've been trying to convey is, yes, we have a problem and the problem is growing worse. So that's that comment. The other comment, the pipeline project, which I believe you guys did a letter on a couple months ago. So I just wanted to bring to your attention, I sent this to your email in this morning. Van Buren County has a draft of this ordinance now. It's a safety ordinance. So probably a little bit more robust than what the Association of Counties was talking about. But I wanted to bring this to your attention because I know a lot of the safety concerns are shared by members of this community. And wouldn't it be fun to have uniformity? And we kind of take the approach of, if it's good enough for Van Buren County, we think it probably is good enough for the whole entire state. But obviously, I think it's very healthy and a very positive tension to see local governments getting involved. And as long as there's not a clear, explicit conflict with anything in state law, I would certainly encourage local governments to do everything they can to protect their people from these types of projects. So,
Okay.
Thanks.
you.
Appreciate your time this morning.
Anybody else? Public comments?
I made my comment to
Okay.
these ladies. Thank you.
Yes, Lee.
And I've talked to Jeff about this and others too, and I've talked to Bart about it. And I'm not sure, it's been a passion of mine, but Jeff, I would say since you're here, we've talked before about, where the county is owed nearly $1 million in back room and board that we can't collect. And on average, round figures, we get $700 a day, largely uncollectible. But if the state would get involved in that, where I think they should be, because those prisoners, like you and I've talked, are state prisoners, state courts, they violated state law. They're not sitting in jail because they violated a city ordinance or a county ordinance. My point simply is that it goes back to what these young ladies talked about, what you talked about. At least a portion of that could be seed money that we could invest back into some of those programs potentially to help, as well as, because we fund, as you all are well aware of, we fund 100% of that. When they have to go to the hospital, as Bart talked about, the county pays for that. So my point simply is that since we're already funding that money, you can look at it one of two ways. We either take that money and invest it, or we put it back to pay for what we budgeted for. And now you have those.
Then that would be money that you're talking about getting from the state.
Yes.
To pay back the road and board.
Yeah.
That the county is always on the hook for.
Exactly right. And it's because, like I've said before, I don't understand why the county's picking it up. I never have, because it's always a state issue, like I say. So without getting too deep in the weeds, and I know you guys are busy, all I'm saying is that if we can move in that direction and get people thinking that, there's seed money for a lot of these programs that might be available actually in each county. I know I have a question I was asked by one of our legislators was it that way in every county? Well, I don't know what it is in Polk County. I don't know what it is in Van Buren County. I just know what it is here. And $1 million, while we wouldn't necessarily use all of it, $1 million is seed money to start something. And then, like I said, $700 a day average. That's a little over $350,000 a year to help, in some of those programs. It's not an end all to end all. I get that, but I'm just saying that I would like to.
But that would have to start at the state level first and go from the state level up.
Which I think it was 2 years ago, starting in July, that things changed with that collection of that. It used to be added to their court fines, their attorney fees, all that through the clerk of court. Well, they dropped that portion of it, so it can no longer be added. So we were trickling in some money that way, but yeah, when that all changed, I know the State Sheriff's Association was maybe looking into it. Maybe there's a collection type service that all 99 counties can enter into. I don't know, or something needs to be changed back. through legislation where we have a mechanism to collect it, I guess.
Roger that, yeah.
Okay,
Darren, I have something.
Yes, Chris.
Sitting here listening to everybody talk about prevention and mental health, I just want to say that there's lots of communities or lots of county meetings already going on between different providers. So you have the Alcohol and Tobacco Free Coalition that meets the second Monday of the month. That started because of underage and binge drinking grant funding. So that committee has continued on even throughout the pandemic. We met Pat McAfee, I don't know if Pat's on, he chairs
That
it.
was all.
Yeah, so he chairs it, and there's lots of different community partners. I know Mary Boyer is with the death of Mrs. Graber. I know that she spearheads several different meetings. Deb Booth from Public Health serves on that committee. A lot of times it's the same people, just lots of different meetings. So I would really like to see something comprehensively done versus just having like this little group's doing this little group's doing this. It's got to be up here to get the right people at the table, or it's not going to get any momentum. And I wholeheartedly agree. It's not just mental health and drug addiction. It's not just a dual diagnosis. But then you throw in homelessness, which brings up another whole level of sometimes people rip stuff off at Hy-Vee. They'll steal a cart so they can go to jail, so they can get some warm place to stay. I mean, I see that too. So it's a lot of things going on with underlying root causes of childhood trauma and the ACEs scores of something bad happened to a kid when they were younger. So anyway, and our child family consultants are, they're working on all that stuff too. So there's lots of great things going on. We just need to figure out what we need to do differently as established committees to help move it forward. Does that make sense? Okay.
You don't
thanks.
think everybody should be in silos, is that what you're saying?
Yeah. Yeah, I've worked in silos for 15 years. It doesn't work very well with state folks, no offense, Jeff, but it's better now. You gotta get the right people to the table.
So that you volunteered to organize?
No, that's not what I'm saying. I'm happy to participate in any way.
Okay, so let's move on then to allow claims and approve reports.
Second.
I have a motion from Drish, a second from Sandquist. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. All those opposed, same sign. Motion carries. All right, do I have a motion to adjourn the meeting?
Second.
I have a motion from Drish, a second from Sandquist to adjourn the meeting. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. All those opposed, same sign. Motion carries. Thank you, everybody, for joining us today by Zoom as well.